Welcome to Mountaineer Football Tonight, the weekly coaches show for Kings Mountain High School, brought to you by KMHS Sports and the Kings Mountain Touchdown Club.
Welcome, fans, to another week of Mountaineer Football Tonight. Glad you're with us. Your host, Craig Short, Drew Fulton behind the computer, and Coach Herron here with me. We're going to get right to it here in just a moment and talk about this past week's game with Forestview, and we'll talk about the upcoming game this week against South Point Red Raiders here at John Gamble Stadium. We'll also do our Butler Outdoor Designs Players of the Week. So come right back after the break, and we will break down last week's game and this game to come. See you in a few.
Mountaineer Football Tonight is sponsored by H.B. Jones Appraisals, KM Family YMCA, KM Paint Pros LLC, Arthur Services Incorporated, Harris Funeral Home,
Welcome back, fans. Coach, as always,
Yes,
good to see you.
Good to see you.
Welcome. We talked off there a little bit before I get into the game too much. I wanted to talk about it. Have you ever faced trying to get ready for a game, face something like you faced last week? I mean, with guys being out that much before they had to come back and get ready?
Yeah, a couple of times. The Hugo, I was coaching down in the lower part of state, Strom Thurmond High School years and years ago, and Hugo kind of brought the same problems.
Yeah.
We were blessed down there. We didn't get hit like the coastal area and even up here.
Yeah.
But yeah, it makes it different. We've had some other issues before too, but you kind of have to deal with it as it comes. And the most important thing is making sure that people are safe and that the families are together, and that if they need something, that we're there to provide.
Yes.
Because we were fortunate where we were. All I had was a big poplar tree about this big around that was leaning towards my house, and I ended up finally finding somebody to come cut it down a few days afterwards, after the storm. But we're just blessed. Feel blessed.
I think under the circumstances of what the boys went through, and faced a lot of them, I was pleasantly pleased with what they did, considering. I mean, I know there were things that didn't go the way we wanted to, and I know there were some mistakes made. But to me, getting in there and getting a win under the circumstances and being able to do some of the things we did, I thought was good, considering it. And I said it in the stands Friday night. A lot of the fans didn't realize a lot of our guys weren't here most of the week. But Forestview basically had a whole week of school and a game. Right. So they had a little more time to prepare. Yeah,
well, and I can tell you, just all week long, the days that we did get to practice, the district gave us 2 hours. They gave us from 3 to 5 to practice, and they were adamant that at 5 o'clock they were gone, and that was fine. It's what we needed, but we hadn't lifted any weights. We haven't. Our guys lifted weights for the first time today. That's like in 8 days. So that's different. It's hard for them to adjust to that. I was worried. I told them at practice, I was like, man, our guys just don't have any energy. And so I got to give a shout out to my wife, Bridget. Thursday night before the game, Bridget has a connection with a Chick-fil-A in Rock Hill. Yeah. And she went and bought 80 Chick-fil-A sandwiches and brought them up here and gave them to the team. So she wanted to make sure they were fed before Friday. Yeah. So,
Coach, real quick, speaking of Thursday, the JV game that we postponed, is it on the schedule right now?
Yeah. So what will happen is we'll know more on Wednesday, but we're expecting them to add a week on to the season, and so we will play. The varsity will play North Gaston that last week of the season, and our JVs will play Forestview that week.
Yes, because the JV got their North Gaston game in. Okay, right. Makes sense. All right, so let's talk about Forestview. They got off to a big start with a pretty good kickoff return. 2 quick passes got them set up for a score. and they go in. I thought our first drive was good. Mm-hmm. We were moving the ball really well, in my opinion, and we unfortunately had it didn't end, but it had an INT. But the defense stepped up, and made a stop. And by the 3:14 mark, we had tied it up after a huge play by Gash. Drew's going to play that highlight for this first big pass to Gash, and then JoJo had a good TD run. I want you to tell me two things here. Talk to me about the start of the game, what you thought, and then explain to us what happened when they made you do the re-kick. When because I didn't understand what that was. It looked like to me we recovered the ball. Yeah. And can you explain what happened on that, if you don't mind?
Yeah. Well, first of all, the start of the game, and that's what I just told our players that we were all really frustrated the whole game. The coaching staff was frustrated. The players were frustrated. And really though, when you go back and you watch the tape, we played really well. I mean, for the circumstances. If we don't give up that first long run on the kickoff and then let them on second down throw a pass for a touchdown on a slant route, which it's just poor coverage. I mean, we had poor coverage, and and the player who let it go through, Coach Carroll, asked him, "What are you doing?" He said, "Coach, I got distracted. I wasn't paying attention." That was the response. So that's kind of what you're having to deal with. But I thought we picked it up. Yeah. And like the interception was bad. You come back, we get the ball, we're going to take it down the field, and we throw the pick. And but that's the good thing about it. What you notice, what I noticed, our guys never gave up. Right. It didn't turn into starting to point fingers at each other and hey, it's his fault, it's their fault, it's the coach's fault, it's whoever. They just stayed on each other about playing better and harder. And after the pick, we had a 3 and out, because this is, people probably don't realize this, but they didn't have a first down in the first quarter. No, they didn't get their first down until the second quarter. Correct. So we come out of the first quarter and it's 14-14 tie, and they don't have a first down. I know. So that means that there's a problem somewhere else. Yeah. And that problem's in our special teams. Yeah. So we're going to work on that, and we'll fix it. But anyway, there's a lot that went on in the first quarter, and it ended up right there at the end. And we just showed Gash on that play. He was electrifying the other night. But at the end of the first quarter, he had a 98-yard kickoff return touchdown, and so all that kind of just keeps everything going. And he had a great night. We'll talk about him in a little bit.
And that's what I was going to say. The defense held again. They forced a punt. We got pinned deep, and then they scored. But then the kickoff return, right back. I mean,
yeah. And then I need to answer the other part of your question.
Oh yeah.
The kickoff, it's kind of I guess it's a rule. It's a rule, but maybe unwritten in a way. But after a score, officials are supposed to keep the game moving. Right. And so, the kickoff team, they want them on the field right now. The kickoff return, sometimes they'll kind of meet for a second and then get on the field. Well, they just stood over there and stood over there and stood over there. Well, I was livid on the official. I was like, man, get them out of the huddle. This ain't a timeout. Right. And they just stayed there and stayed there and stayed there. Well, then they finally, the official that was standing at the ball, he finally blew the whistle.
He blew it into play.
To tell them, no, he was telling them to get out of the huddle. Right. Well, Matt thought he was putting the ball into play, so he went and kicked the ball. Well, that's a penalty on us for a delay of game. And so that whole thing went round and round, and eventually the side judge that was on our sideline, he came to me and said, "Coach, we talked about the kickoff, and we messed that up. So it was on us." And I was like, "Hey, appreciate you telling us.
That's all you can say.
That's all you can do." Yeah. But they apologized for two things the other night. So because we had another issue where TJ's helmet comes off.
Yes.
And so we punt on the next play, and then there's a penalty. So that's a play.
Yes.
Well, then we get a first down because of the penalty. TJ goes back out, runs a play.
Yes.
Then they come over and say TJ's got to come out because his helmet came off.
Yes.
And so I'm livid again. And the official eventually, in about the third quarter, he came over and said, "Coach, I just want to let you know that whole thing about taking the quarterback out of the game." He said that was wrong. We messed that up. And I said,
Well, and
appreciate you saying that.
My thing on that one when they messed it up too was I would have even dealt with it a little better had they brought the ball back to the original line of scrimmage and run the play from where, because what happened is we ran the play and then we got backed up, and I'm thinking, okay, well, if they're going to make us rerun the play, you can't make it retroactive.
Right.
But if they're going to do that, then go back from the original line of scrimmage, but they didn't do that.
No.
So we were in a little bit of a hole.
Yeah. Anyway, hey, people make mistakes.
They do.
I've never called a perfect game. And as you can tell with our special teams, we all make mistakes. So
the first quarter was full of action, but then the second quarter starts out great. We had an interception down, returned inside inside the 10. Latham.
Yeah, he is in the right place at the right time, and but you know. The pressure is what caused it.
Yes.
We had a lot of good pressure on the quarterback, which we didn't get all night long, but we did on a few occasions, and that was one. And it hit Latham right in the 8. And
I thought he was going to score.
I didn't realize when you watch him on the sideline, it doesn't seem, but he had a 30-yard return.
He did.
On top.
Yeah, he did.
So,
and the cool thing, his momentum was pulling him as he caught the ball, and it went. And that's what I've got here. You know. We score, we go up 21-14. They get a big run on the next kickoff, but then we stuff them.
Yeah.
I mean, they get a run and have some positive yards, but then we end up, it's basically a 4 and out. So they get a first down run, and then the defense just gets stout and stuffs them again.
Yep.
And then from there, we get a big run and a big pass to Gash again with a score, and we're up 27-14 just like that.
Right.
So to your point from a moment ago, I thought the execution was there. I mean, a couple of things that they were getting or that they got, as you said, I mean, they had no first downs in the first quarter. Mm-hmm. I mean, it just were a couple freaky things that just kind of bounced their way.
That's right.
But I like how we responded.
You know, and you were talking about the execution. I thought we ran the ball well.
Yes.
But all around, you know, we only completed 5 passes. So that causes frustration.
Yeah.
So we were only 5 for 16, but there were some big plays in there, you know, to Gash.
Yeah.
But he caught the long ball for the touchdown on the seam route, and then he caught the one that you saw. And but we've got to execute better in the passing game. We were doing really well. I was really happy with the progression we were making in the passing game, but last week in practice, I could tell it wasn't where it needed to be, and then it showed up in the game. So that's got to get better. And then the other thing is, you know, and I gave a lot of props to JoJo Hill today because, you know, he had some good runs, but he was getting hit in the backfield.
Yes.
There was one guy, and our coaches worked all week on what we call mugging, like linebackers mugging the line of scrimmage, and we know that there's a good chance they're going to come. And so when that happens, we got to make an adjustment on the fly and get it blocked, and we didn't do it.
Yeah.
And so there was a guy in our backfield almost too many times, but they would hit JoJo in the backfield. That one guy who come free would hit him, and he would make a move and get loose and get us yardage. So JoJo had a great night too.
I thought so, and I know you're going to give us some stats on him in a minute because the third quarter we had good field position after a good kickoff return, another touchdown run from Joe at the 9:40 mark. We're up 33-17, and then Forestview gets the kickoff return right after that. But then our defense turns right back around the next time they get the ball, and we stuff them again with a 3 and out. They get inside our red zone. And it was assisted by a personal foul call. I don't know that one either. You don't have to talk about it if you don't want to. But what we end up happening there is they go for it, and we have a tackle for loss on 4th and goal. And
but you got to go through all the things that went through. So So it was there was a we stop them. Then they get a penalty,
foul,
and then we stop them again, and we get interference.
Yeah.
They get and it just. I was like, man, might as well just give them the touchdown. we can't. We're not doing anything right. And then Eli makes a big stop and keeps them from. And they had to kick a field goal, which banks off the upright.
And I'm gonna be honest. At the one point where they were down, I really thought they would kick a field goal when they went for it on fourth down. They'd have put them down one score if they make the field goal, but he goes for it.
Yeah.
Good for us because we stuff him in the backfield.
Yeah.
Opening drive of the fourth quarter goes well. Tip ball goes into an interception. The D holds on again. We get a good punt return, setting up the ball in plus territory. Joe's got a huge run around the right side. Has another TD at the 6-minute mark. We score, go up then 41-23. I know I'm shooting through some of your stuff, but I'm trying to.
No, you're good.
And that's where it ends. And so, we've said already a couple of times, I thought execution was good. I thought the defense played well, considering they were up against the wall a few times. We're going to get some stats in a moment. But just tell us, before we do the takeaways, like, how did you feel afterwards, considering everything that you'd been through? I mean, you get ready for North Gaston. You don't play North Gaston. You think you're going to play them Monday. You don't play on Monday or Saturday or whatever it was going to be, and then that gets postponed, and then you have to try to get ready for Forestview. There was a lot going on.
Yeah.
So with all the moving parts, talk before you do your takeaways. Talk about like how you felt about the game overall.
First of all, I'm an organizational guy. I like for things to be organized. I like for things to be repetitive. Let's do the same thing over and over and over until we're great at it. And that's with everything. So I'm not just talking about X's and O's. I'm talking about everything that we do. Like our pregame is down to the minute. Everybody knows where they're supposed to be, and so when you don't know, I did an itinerary to play North Gaston at 6 o'clock, and that was once that went out the window. Then when I got ready for this week, I was like, I'm not even going to start doing one. And so there's a lot of things that once that organization gets broken down, it makes me feel, it puts me on edge. So I just, I wonder if that kind of rubs off on the players. They're usually a little more nonchalant than I am, but I don't know. So after the game, my thing, what I wanted to tell them was, what I wanted to get through to them was, through the year, so far through the season, after we played our last game, I got home that night and my wife sat right behind the bench and she was watching us, and she got home and we got home and she said something to me that she said, Strait, they're almost there. I mean, they're gelling. They look like a totally different team, like some of your old teams you used to have. She said, they're not there yet. She said, but they're getting closer and closer. And I was like, man, that's pretty awesome. And she would know because she watches football nonstop. So, but then when we came back this week, getting ready for Forestview, it was nothing like that. It was kind of like it's like we've gone back out in our own separate ways again, and it just didn't. The practices weren't quick and crisp, and the camaraderie wasn't the same. And then we went out and we played like that. So that was my message to them after the game. It's like, man, we were on the right track, and we got to get back on that track. So hopefully, started being back in school today and having a practice that they knew exactly what was expected. Hopefully that might bring us back to where we were. Yeah,
I agree with her take, and that's what I told you. It looked to me that we were finally beginning to have some rhythm and play well together and play together. And then this happens that you can't control, and it pulls you out, and it does. It throws a little hitch and you giddy up. But I guess if there's any good thing from it, you got to win Friday. Yeah. And this week, our boys love playing this game coming up this week, and this is a huge. I don't want to call it a rivalry, but it is. I mean, it's always a very high intense game for both sides, and so I know they'll be ready to play.
Well, here's the thing: is like we watch teams play, and on video, we get the video, we study the video, and we watch them. We go, okay, yeah, they got some guys that are pretty good, and then they play us, and it's lights out. I mean, Forestview played. They played harder Friday night than I've seen them play on any film that I watched this year. So when you say it's kind of like what I'm used to where I came from.
Right.
Everybody's a rival against us.
Yeah.
Everybody plays their hardest against us, and so we got to be ready for that. And we ought to take pride in that.
Sure.
And use it to our advantage.
I completely agree, and I think they will. I think they'll rise to the occasion.
They want to play. They're ready to play. They're ready to get back to something
the
normal.
rhythm. Yeah. So give me your takeaways, Coach, from the games.
Well, obviously that first one we've already talked about. We got to be more solid in the special teams. You know, that's special teams to me is so important, and part of that is on me. I mean, because I handle most of the special teams, but and then, you know, I get up there in my office and I start watching video and I say, hey, you know, we could do this and we could do this and we could do this, and the next thing you know, we got too much stuff. I mean, it's a special team, so I'm gonna cut all that stuff out. We're gonna get back to just being able to. We're gonna be able to punt the ball. We're gonna be able to cover a kick. We're gonna be able to return kicks, and our return game's gotten better. We had a great punt return the other night. We had a great kickoff return, several good kickoff returns. So we've got some things going in the right way, but on the other side, I've got too much going on. So we got to get more solid in the special team game as the year goes on. Second takeaway is time off hurts. It hurts execution. It hurts the mental game. You know, you talk to parents, and my wife was talking to one of our players' parents, and he was like, you know, I made him get up every day. I made him get up off the couch and go do something, even if it was just walking around the neighborhood. But if the parent hadn't made him get up, he wasn't getting up. He would have laid right there all day, and that's just not good for us. Not good for execution. Not good for the mental game of football, and obviously it's not good for the body and stamina and that kind of thing. So having time off hurts. It really does. And then the last takeaway is the other thing that we've been preaching to our players this whole season is, don't worry about who our opponent is. Mm-hmm. We don't care who the opponent is. We got to take care of us. And the object is to be better every week than you were the week before. Mm-hmm. When you play a game, this next week you want it to be better. And it's a process. We don't change a lot of stuff. We might add little wrinkles here and there, but we just want to get better at what we're doing. And I think a lot of the problems that we had the other night was our players watching film, looking at the scores of Forestview's games in the past and who they played, and they just didn't get ready for the game. They weren't prepared for the game mentally. And what we've got to do is understand that we have to take care of us.
Yes. Because
you can get beat any night by anybody. If you don't believe me, ask Alabama.
Mm-hmm. Well, you look at speaking of that, it was chaos all the way across college football.
Yeah, all over the place.
I mean, yeah.
South Carolina beats Kentucky. Ole Miss loses.
Yeah.
And then they beat the brakes off South Carolina. I'm still just, I don't understand.
Well, somebody asked me when we first got there Friday night, they were like, how good is Forestview? And this is my exact answer. I said, they're good enough.
Yeah, they're good enough.
I said, they're good enough. That
they got some players.
They do. And I said that if we don't play, and they get the momentum, and you saw they hung around. And that's what happens in football. And I was happy, though, as a fan, that, you know, our boys did respond. And I, like I said, now that we're kind of back in the rhythm and we're going with some things, I see that this week, I feel like this week will be a lot better.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, I think just getting back on routine is going to help us a bunch.
Yeah. All right, so that's the highlights of the Forestview game. We're going to take a sponsor break. When we come back, we will talk about the Red Raiders of South Point. So stick around, and we'll be back in just a few minutes.
Mountaineer Football Tonight is sponsored by H.B. Jones Appraisals, KM Family YMCA, KM Paint Pros LLC, Arthur Services Incorporated, Harris Funeral Home,
Welcome back, fans. Coach, let's talk about South Point this week coming in. They had a big win this past week over Crest, and we know what we're going to face with them. So we obviously know how talented they are on both sides of the ball. So give us some takeaways as you've been looking at film and getting ready for the week.
Yeah, offensively they run the flex bone, and they do it as well as anybody, and that makes it hard. They've got that huge B back that's he can run, and he's a pounder too, and so we've got a huge challenge up front. Their offensive line gets off the ball. That's what they work that. They're staying low and hitting you in the thigh pad and that kind of stuff. It's tough to have to do that over and over and over again. So all of that stuff is really tough. Their quarterback is an excellent player. He runs the offense very well, understands the option game. So we just we've got to put a plan in place, and then we've got to be able to execute the plan. And it's hard, man. It's hard to tell a kid, hey, that guy's got dive, you got quarterback, and the guy with the ball is the dive guy, and the guy who's supposed to have quarterback says, well, I want to go tackle him because I can't get a stat if I don't tackle him because he's got the ball. Right. And then the quarterback pulls the ball and he's running down the field. It's hard to get a teenager to buy in on doing that. It's so much of, hey, I just want to chase the ball and make tackles. And so you just can't do that. You got to be disciplined. So that's what we're going to work on, is making sure that we've got our all of our responsibilities taken care of. It's old football, man. It's triple options back in the 80s, 70s, and 80s. But it's good football. It's what I studied. It's what I thought I would run if I ever became a head coach. And I've been over South Point and watched them practice before back 20 years ago, and they just do a really good job with it. So it's going to be tough to stop them on offense. You just got to make your plays. You got to make tackles. But,
they're definitely good at what they do. And the aggravating thing about preparing for a team that runs a triple option is that, number one, it's hard to simulate that in practice because you don't do it. Number two is, assignment football. It's not that you don't play assignment football throughout the rest of the season, you do, but that one is critical because, in my opinion, they're banking on you making a mistake at one of the assignments.
That's it.
And they'll just keep popping, and then they'll break one, and it's tough. And that's, you said something about Alabama. I know it's on the collegiate level, but it's still the same. They're running, Vanderbilt runs their wonky version of this offense, and you saw they kept gashing Bama. But I mean, you're talking about the best athletes out there, and even they are having trouble with it. So it's hard.
Yeah.
Have you noticed? Are they throwing the ball any more than they have before? I
don't think so.
Yeah, because normally they don't have to. They usually can execute well.
No, but they lull you to sleep. They're going to pound you and make you think everybody. You got to put 11 guys right there at the ball to get them stopped, and then they run right by you. And so I've seen they do a good job with the bootleg pass, and they've got a curl wheel that can give us problems. So they can throw it. I mean, the guy can throw the ball. So we just, but you got to put so much emphasis on. If you don't stop the run, they don't have to throw it, and they won't throw it.
Correct.
So that's what you got to do. You got to get them stopped.
It'll be a big atmosphere. I mean, they're feeling good after their win. Of course, they always bring a great crowd. We'll have a good crowd as well. I know because we've been on the road for a few weeks. But it should be a big time game.
Yeah. Yeah, and we talk about their offense all the time, so everybody talks about defensively. They've got two really good defensive tackles, two really good linebackers. So they've got players. They do a good job with them.
Are they running up front on defense? Are they running odd man or even man?
They're even. But they're across the board. They're just hard nosed football players, like forever. Yeah. So we've got to be ready. We got to have our stuff strapped on tight, and we got to make sure that we're moving forward on offense and defense.
Yeah, and not letting them move forward as much as we want to.
Can't go backwards.
No. So, real quick update on South Point there. Not giving away too much, of course, but we know. But, hey, you know what you're going to see when they come because they run that red bone really well. So, we'll do another quick sponsor break. When we come back, we will do the Butler Outdoor Designs Players of the Week. So, stick with us, and we'll be back in just a minute.
Mountaineer Football Tonight is sponsored by H.B. Jones Appraisals, KM Family YMCA, KM Paint Pros LLC, Arthur Services Incorporated, Harris Funeral Home,
Welcome back, fans. Coach, let's do our Butler Outdoor Designs Players of the Week. We will start with offense.
All right. Let's start with the overall player of the game.
Yeah, do it. I can't even remember that.
And then at the end, I want to talk about our teammate of the week too. So let me add that on.
Yes.
And I'll try to do this as quick as possible.
You don't have to go quick. You take your time.
Overall player of the game I think is pretty obvious. I know JoJo had 4 touchdowns, which is pretty good, and a lot of yards. That's pretty good. But you just got to listen. So Jaden Gash on offense had 3 receptions for 141 yards and a touchdown. On defense, he starts at corner also. He's our only true two-way player. Antonio would be close to the second, but he had 4 solo tackles, a primary tackle, a third down stop, a pass broken up, and 2 tackles for losses. Okay, so that's offense and defense. Then on special teams, he had a 98-yard kickoff return for touchdown. So Jaden Gash is the overall player of the week for us, and he had a super night. So glad for him because I know he loves it.
Yes, he does.
So then let's go to offense, and offense. The offensive player of the week has to be JoJo Hill, Josiah. He had 23 carries, 141 yards, and 4 rushing touchdowns. And the thing about it is that he got hit in the backfield multiple times, and then turned those into positive yardage.
Yes.
So. A couple of those were touchdowns. So JoJo, he did a great job, and he's the offensive player of the week. Defense, man, Eli Lipscomb, who has been this before. Coach Carroll, after he finished watching the video and doing our production points, which I've talked about before, Eli ended up with 168 production points. I don't know if I can ever remember anybody having that number. That's huge. I think the second, so his was 168. I think the second highest was like 42. So 7 solo tackles, 7 primary tackles, 2 assists, and then he had 9 tackles for loss. So that's where he gets all the points from. He also had a sack, a quarterback pressure, a third down stop, and 2 fourth down stops. And then he had a Alamo tackle, which is we call Alamo tackle a saving tackle, or a tackle that saves a touchdown. He had one of those. So Eli had a tremendous night, and again, when I got home, that was the first thing Bridget told me. She's like, "Eli's incredible." I said, hey,
well,
good to hear.
Our wives are usually right.
Yeah, so, definitely. And then honorable mentions on defense, though. Of course, Gash again. We've already talked about his. Tyler McIntyre had a good night. Lathan Feimster with the interception, and he had some tackles, and then Antonio, he had a big hit that caused a fumble, which was huge. Yeah. So all of those would be honorable mentions on defense. And then our special teams player of the week would be Jaden Williams. We call him Quickie. Quickie had a punt return for 50 yards and 3 kickoff returns for 100 yards.
Yes, he did.
So then you've got him plus the 98-yarder that Gash had. That's pretty good in return yardage. So those are the players of the week. But I want to add this so that people know we started something this year. We're doing a teammate of the week, and so what we did is the very first week of the season we picked who we would consider as a coaching staff of the player, the teammate of the week, who was Cole Groves. Great kid, does everything we ask and gives his heart to the team. He is what we call a glue guy. He is the quintessential glue guy. Great kid. But then after that, every week after that, the teammate of the week gets to pick the next teammate of the week. And so I think that the next week, Cole picked Jaden Gash. He was the week 2 teammate of the week. Gash picked Isaiah Branch the 3rd week. Branch picked Josiah Hill the 4th week, and Josiah Hill picked Devin Hopper last week. So all of those guys are, we call them the teammate of the week. We take a picture of them with the big
hat.
yellow hat and the big cowboy hat. And if you haven't seen, I don't know if the fans know or not, but we're giving stickers now on the back of their helmets. If you see them, they're little muskets, which we got approved by the district, and the state people approved us to use muskets as our stickers. And so these teammate of the weeks, they get the most stickers for anything we give a sticker out for. Right. They get 2 for everything else counts as 1. So this is a great thing, and tomorrow we'll pick this week's Hopper will pick this week's teammate of the week. And it's pretty good. It's
Coach,
good to hear him.
When Coach Bolton sat in for you, we talked about that, because I talked about the hat. But I love the hat, and he talked about you guys got it at a clinic or something, and that it came to be. It's fantastic. I told him the 2 things I loved was the seeing the player of the week or the teammate of the week with the hat on, which is fantastic, and the uniform reveal. Yeah, I said those are really cool things that our program is doing that I think gets some excitement, for not only for the players but the fans, but the hat. The
hat was pretty. It was a great idea. Nate Blanton, Coach Blanton, and Coach Bolton and Coach Cruz and Coach Bell. We were at a clinic, and we came across that hat and said, "Man, that's a great thing. That's a great thing."
But that's what you got to do, and that's what makes the boys enjoy it and all. And we appreciate, the fans appreciate doing those things for the guys too. So we appreciate you guys doing that, Coach. So I know you've had a long day. We're going to let you get out of here. We're going to tidy up the show, but we'll be here Friday night cheering you on, and good luck against Red Raiders.
I appreciate you,
Coach. Appreciate you.
Yep.
So we'll take a sponsor break. When we come back, we'll do This Week at Kings Mountain. We'll talk about tickets for the game. So stick around. We'll be back in just a couple minutes.
Mountaineer Football Tonight is sponsored by H.B. Jones Appraisals, KM Family YMCA, KM Paint Pros LLC, Arthur Services Incorporated, Harris Funeral Home,
Welcome back, fans. We're going to go real quick into This Week at KM like we always do. Drew will pop up the graphic, and I know you all can read, but I like to read it to you because Drew likes to hear my voice. Monday the 7th, today at 4:30, our women's tennis is at home versus South Point. They're still out there playing, and our men's soccer team is at Crest taking on the Chargers. Tomorrow at 1 p.m., our women's golf team will be at the Lincolnton Country Club. And we will have volleyball at South Point. That's usually a really good match. South Point usually is really good. 4:30 and 6. I'm assuming JV will play at 4:30 and varsity at 6. On Wednesday the 9th, we are hosting the women's tennis Big South tournament. So that's starting at 2 p.m. out there at our tennis complex. Our men's soccer team will travel to Ashbrook. On Thursday at 2:30, starting at 2:30, that will be another day of our women's tennis Big South tournament, again hosted here at our school. Volleyball is at home versus Stuart Kramer, 4:30 and 6, JV and varsity. And our JV football team will be back in action this week at 7 p.m. at South Point. And of course, Friday night, 7:30 here at John Gamble Stadium, we are playing the South Point Red Raiders in what will be a very good game. Speaking of that, we've got information about the tickets. You all can see that on the screen there. This Friday's game ticket price will be $10. The reason there is an increase in the price, you can see that $2 from every ticket that is being sold is going to go to Pisgah High School to support their efforts in recovering from the impact of Hurricane Helene. Pisgah High has hosted several wrestling and golf regionals. They're a valued partner of ours. And we know they're facing challenges after Helene, and they're also recovering from Tropical Storm Fred from a while back. We hope the contribution helps their students and staff during this difficult time. It's a way that we in South Point can give back. We also want to talk about Mountaineer Days. That's coming up this Saturday. Drew has a graphic for that. We like to promote that because it is a community event and we are a community school. You can see that on Saturday from 12 p.m. to 10 p.m. you have Mountaineer Days up at the amphitheater in the gazebo. Specialty foods, rides, arts, crafts. There's a hay bale decorating contest, living history vendor market. There is a beard and mustache and goatee competition. You can see that we're going to have music throughout the day, River Mist, Runaway Train, and then of course the headliner that evening is Wade Hayes. So make sure you're up there. I think it says Michael Costner, Katie Lindell with the Roads Below, or the Roads Bellow. By the way, that's a great band. I know them and have listened to the Roads Bellow. I might tell my wife now that they're going to be there. She's really going to want to go. Heritage Village is set up, and it's going to be there at Patriots Park Avenue. So please go up and take part in Patriot Days there at the gazebo and the amphitheater. As always, we'd like to thank the Touchdown Club for giving us this opportunity to have the show tonight. Sorry we missed you last week, but of course there was no game because of Helene. I pray that each of you made it through that okay. I know we were without cable. No, that would be right. Power and streaming services for a while. And I'm just hoping that everyone came through through that virtually unscathed. We know that our folks in the western part of the state, parts of upstate South Carolina, eastern Tennessee, and Georgia are still struggling. So I know you will continue to pray for them, as will I, and pray for those who are on the ground helping. We also want to thank the Touchdown Club, like I said, for not only allowing us to have the show, but for sponsoring everything Mountaineer. As I encourage you to do each week, if you are not a member of the Touchdown Club, please join. You can go to kmtouchdownclub.com and join, or you can see one of us at the ball game here at home. David and Marie typically are sitting by the concession stand as you come in selling programs, so you can see them and join. Every dollar that you contribute goes to helping all things Mountaineer, academic and athletic endeavors here at Kings Mountain. We also invite you to like and subscribe to all of the things we put on YouTube. Please join our channel if you have not done so already. Every like and subscription that we have there increases our viewership, and that helps us overall as an athletic department and for our YouTube channel. We appreciate you tuning in this week. Hope to see you this Friday at 7:30 here at John Gamble. Also Thursday night at South Point with the JV game, among some of the other sports that you can attend this week. Please support the Mountaineers. Pray that all of you are doing okay, like I said, after the hurricane, that you have a safe and productive week. Thank you for watching, and be blessed.
Mountaineer Football Tonight is sponsored by H.B. Jones Appraisals, KM Family YMCA, KM Paint Pros LLC, Arthur Services Incorporated, Harris Funeral Home,